So today we're going to talk about deployment center, how we can use deployment center for different things. A colleague of mine already did how to install deployment center and how to do the repo folder location for deployment center to get all the installation files from there. We're going to look a little deeper. So the table content today is going to be streamlined installation. So we're going to discover the simplicity of installing deployment center packets or DCs with deployment center DC. We'll guide you through every step, ensuring it's a smooth and efficient process. Efficiency, multi-server configuration. So we're going to learn how to configure a multi-server environment effortlessly with our section will cover setting up each server to install specific features tailored to your needs. And the last part that we're going to talk about is upgrading using Deployment Center to upgrade. So if you are considering upgrading, Deployment Center is a great tool to use. This session will show you how to leverage Deployment Center to upgrade your Teamcenter environments. So the first topic is going to be streamlined installation. I am not going to go through the whole installation because it takes a lot longer than the time that we have for this presentation, but I do have a lot of screenshots and I do have a VM. If there's any questions, I could possibly go there. But the first thing we're going to talk about is the installation. So in the full, software repository, all media kits are in the software repository. They need to be unzipped. As you all know, we download the medias from Siemens. They all come zipped because it's a lot easier to download them. It makes it easier to and faster to download them. But the deployment center can only scan the medias that are unzipped. So please make sure to unzip all the medias and store them in the path that you set up deployment center to scan in order for it to pick up those medias. Please also don't change the name of those files. I have seen it that sometimes they decide to put a different name of it. Leave it how it is. There's a reason for it. You know, a lot of these softwares look into this media to find specific names, and also it's a lot easier for everybody that's looking at this medias to keep the standard naming convention. That way we know, for example, what active workspace, what Teamcenter, if there's any patches, we know just looking at the media what you have in there and what you can use and what's available for upgrading or anything like that. So just unzip them, put them in the folder repository location that's set up for your DC, and leave it there to be used with Deployment Center. The Deployment Center repository service monitors the software repository and scans for new media kits, reports, and populates the software kits to Deployment Center. So, as you know, Deployment Center is going to be like a web browser. That's the GUI. You'll go in there, you'll see the environment media in the repository. I'll show you that in a minute. But this folder location is actually in a server. So there is a service called Deployment Center Repository Service that is constantly scanning this. Now, it can be set up different ways, different timings. But if you upload a folder installation files in there and you do not see it, you can always restart this service so then it picks up the media that you have just populated the folder with. Again, it's called Deployment Center Repository Service. It's installed when you install Deployment Center on your server. So this is the GUI for Deployment Center. This might not be the same URL that you're using. In this instance, we're using localhost 8080 Deployment Center. It might be different for you guys, but this is the first interface that you will see. You'll have getting started, environments, software repositories, and machines. If we look at folder at the icon or you click on software repositories, it's actually going to tell you all the media that it has already scanned. So as you can see here, I have active workspace, the version 6.2.3, and the dependency, it actually tells you all this information. What is dependencies, release type, what operation system it's currently safe. So we downloaded the one from Siemens from WNTX 64. That's why it says the operation system looks like that. Again, this is the ones that they have been scanned. If you click on overview, there's more information here in overview. So it tells you the repository name is the host name that's hosting all this repository software. So in case you have a lot of servers and you don't know where exactly it is, you can go to the overview and know exactly what's the host name of the server that's hosting this deployment center. Not only that, if you come into a company, you don't know where it is, any of the, for example, the repository path, you can also see here the path to the repository that's being scanned for this for all the media. Again, this is great because at times there's different ways that, different locations and different paths that maybe we don't know. But one of the ways to figure this out is using the Deployment Center to go directly where it's pulling all the installation files to be installed. Again, there's more information here, but those are the main ones that I'm going to talk about just because that is what the Deployment Center is going to use. Going back to the interface, the first page that you will see once you log into the Deployment Center, now we're going to click on environments. What environments mean is that you can store as many environments as you want in here. In this instance, env_001 is just one that we're going to use for an example. It gives you a site ID, which is very important to know. It tells you what type of architecture type. So this one's using J2EEs, or it could be either Wildfly or any of those, Tomcat or any of those that you want to use as J2EE. Or you can use IIS, Windows IIS as well. So we'll show you that really quick in the next slides where you decide. But here, once you click on the specific environment that you want to look at, once you click on overview, you can actually change the name of the environment. We recommend in the name to put something that is easy for you to know where's this environment going to be installed. Could be like the server name or the host name, or it could be the specific name that you want to give it. The type, very important as well. Is it production? Is it test? Also gives you, if somebody else comes to help, a new Teamcenter admin comes, it's easy for them to understand what type of environment they're going to be working on, given these options here. The second thing, as you can see on the overview, is just giving us the information that we've pre-filled here, but that's pretty much how you would see it. The status of this one is it's not installed. We'll look at the other ones that have been installed. One of the first things that you do is select the software that you want to install. Again, just once you're done on the overview, go to deployment software, select the software, and on the right-hand side is going to allow you to select the software that is available in your software repository. In this instance, we're going to just select the foundation, which is 14.0. Once you select that, at the bottom, you're going to say update, select the software. Once you do the update, now the other options are going to populate, and they're going to allow you to go to options, application, and components. Notice how under status, you will see a little clock because it's pending installation, right? So now we're going to go to options. This is where we're going to select whether it's a single box or it's a distributed environment and what type of architecture you're going to use, Java WE or .NET, which is IIS. This is how you're going to select what type of architecture you want to use. And then we're going to go to application. In the applications, this is the same thing as when we used to see TEM, we used to see features. Notice how there's a little pencil right in the middle. If you want to add more features, once you go in here, click on the little pencil, and it's going to give you the column on the right hand side, which says available applications. This is also depending on what's already in your software repository, which you have access to. This is not depending on what licenses you have. Just like in TEM, you can install a lot of these features, but if you don't have the specific license for those features, it's just not going to work. So it's not recommended you just go in here and click absolutely everything, because you're just going to install features that you're not going to use, and it's just going to take space on that server. So as we go down the list, you're going to see a lot of different things. What's really nice about Deployment Center that is game changer compared to TEM is that if you select a feature, but it requires other features to be installed, it will automatically select them. In TEM, you will not be able to select a feature unless you select the required software. So Deployment Center is one step closer to making this process a lot easier than what we used to use in TEM by just selecting one feature and it'll auto-select the required features for that specific one. As you can see, add application is necessary. And once you have selected all, on the bottom you will say update selected applications, and it's just going to load on the application tab. Once you do that, it's like in TEM, we'll go configure, put in the important information that is necessary to install all the software. That page is called components. And the components you're going to select, as you can see under the complete column, it also starts, but the statuses are not there. In this instance, we had already installed the license server and we had already have a database server, so it's reading that it's already installed. But your corporate server and your FSC, which are the only features or applications that we're going to install in this example, they had not been started. So at the bottom, you're gonna say start configuration, and that's when you're gonna see a new column appear. Again, it's just pointing out the license server. In this instance, we're using machine named Siemens DC, and the port is going to be 28,000. If you are using the new license server, you might have a different 29,000. I believe that's the out of the box that it will be configured, but you can also change it depending if you want to whatever port you need to use. Now we're going to go into the ones. Also, there's a little hidden settings. So the little eye bulb on the top right, if you click on that, you'll see more settings that you can modify. That doesn't mean that you have to click on it. It's just if you want to customize your installation a little bit more, it will allow you to do so. And you will see that in the corporate server, for example. So here in the corporate server, the machine name is going to be the host name of where you're going to install this corporate server. The second thing, as you go down the list, is just just like before. Where are you going to install TC root? You need to install TC root in the corporate server in order for have all the installation files to be saved under that TC root. As we go down the list, it's going to ask you for user account or admin account, and the reason is going to allow when you launch this, is going to go in as an admin to allow you to install this in the computers. Same thing, if we just look down the list, it's going to tell you the volume, where is it, transit volume directory. Just keep going. It's just more information that's asking you. Now, notice how the little eye is blue. That means that we clicked on it. It gives you more options. If you want to modify the FSC location to a different server, you just click override connection, put the host name, and depending on what port you're using. In this case, we're using the default, so it's actually going to be installing one server because this is a single server installation example we're talking about. But again, just clicking on that eye will give you more options that you can modify your complete installation. As you go down the list, if there's any fields, for example, if you notice how now corporate servers complete status says 100%, and now you see FSC says 77. So you might be thinking, well, how did it jump to 77? Well, Deployment Center is gathering all the information you're inputting on those previous components, and if any of those fields are repetitive on the next components, is going to carry over what you put in there. That does not mean that you cannot change it. It's just assuming, since this is a single server installation, that the machine name is going to be the same, that some of the admin information is also going to be the same. So again, we click save, and it took us to the database server, but since this is already installed, we're just going to go to the next one. Here's just more information. If you want to double check it, click on the little eye, just go down and make sure that everything is matching. And then now, if you accidentally put a wrong information or input, it will literally tell you validate error. It will check and it'll tell you, hey, the password does not match, or it contains, in this case, it contains a symbol that it doesn't allow it. So Deployment Center will also allow you to, it will check and it will allow you to give you more information so you can make the appropriate changes. As mentioned before, here now we go to FSC. Notice how the machine name is already populated. It's not asking you to populate it again. But now if we click on the little eye in the top right, now it's going to give you all the options. As you go down the list, you have to populate the fields that are empty. Here, FSC server ID is just asking you to put the ID. As we go down, it's going to ask you for the administrator password as well. Most of the time, passwords are not copied over because it depends, and that's something that it doesn't really get stored in Deployment Center. It's just used for installation purposes. But even if you export the files, any password you put in here is not going to be populated right away. It's actually going to say change me in the if you export the XML files of the environments. So again, just going down the list, as soon as you're done with everything, click on Save Components, and notice how now your deployment is, everything shows complete 100%, and at the bottom it says Go to Deploy. At this point, we're going to click Go to Deploy. Now it's going to take you to the tab that says Deploy. We're going to generate install scripts. Make sure you pay attention to the right-hand side. It's very useful information. In this case, it tells us that it was successful, tells us when it was generated, but it also tells us where exactly is being stored the script so you can use it. And then it will also tell you what server target machine it needs to go. Again, this is a single server installation that we're looking at, but when you have multi-server installations, it actually tells you specifically what script to take to what server. So on the right hand side, there's one zip file. It will store in C app deploy repos, deployment scripts, and that number. It's very important because if you need to come back and make any changes and recreate any scripts, that number at the end that says install backslash 2024 4507, that's just so you know that that's the script that was just generated. So every time you generate one, it will give you a new number, but that is the specific zip file that you have to look for. Now it says the name and it tells you the target. And if you look under, it says deployment instructions for machine scripts. It literally tells you what to do in order for you to install it. So you need to go there to that specific folder, unzip the file, and once you unzip the file, you have to run a command windows that in the target machine and do deploy that bat. Now there's more things in the deploy that bat than just doing a deploy that bat. There's more inputs that you have to put in there, but this is getting you literally to the point that you just press finish or install back in temp. Before deploying any scripts, have the environment variable GRE64 underscore home pointing to the GRE. If installed already, stop the Teamcenter Service Manager services before deploying. Now we're going to go to that specific location that it just told us, deployment center, where it's going to be stored. We're going to deployment center, repository, deploy scripts, environment 001, install. And this is that number that I was reading to you guys. Here, you will have multiple files if you generate more scripts, if you want to change things for that specific environment. And now you see a zip file. First thing you have to do is unzip the file. And now we have all this information that's here. Notice how inside that unzip file, we have the deploy.bat, which is what's used to install Teamcenter in this instance. So now we open a command prompt. We have already checked as an admin, but this is an example of the different things that you're going to have to use. Now, since we open the CMD right from that file, we can use deploy.bat. The next things that we're going to use is DC username, which is the username or the admin username of deployment center. The password for us is DC admin, the same thing. But the software, notice how the software is written. You have to do dash software location with capital L. If not, it's not going to work. And then you're going to point to where your software repository is actually at. On the first try, if you do dash diagnostic checks, it will actually check the dry run. It will be a dry run, but it will tell you if there's any errors. So here it's an example, diagnostic check successful completed. If there's any errors, it will tell you diagnostic check for it failed, and it will tell you why it failed. So this is a good option to do before when you're going to start a new deployment. Here we remove the diagnostic check, and now we're just going to let Teamcenter run. This is very similar like a silent script for those of you that have used it before. It just runs in the command prompt. There's nothing for you to do. It just gives you the output of what's done in the back end. Once it's completed, it will tell you the deployment script is execution successful. If you need to import, again, this is also talking about importing to deployment center. So if you already installed Teamcenter using TEM in the past, there is a tool that you can use in deployment center. It's actually going to be zipped under additional tools, and you can use what's called send underscore configuration underscore to underscore DC to send your environment to deployment center. The way that it works is that this is an example for that I was talking about. This is just deployment DC. This is using the same command that I just talked to you about. You have to do D curl after that and put your deployment center specific URL, the machine name that you're going to give that specific environment. Then you got to put deployment center username, deployment center password, and the environment. The environment is actually the name that you're giving it, and the machine is the host name of where the machine is located. Here at the bottom, you can see after the send, I just gave it a name, imported underscore env. As you can see, all the information is already there, and it tells me that it has been installed. Okay, now we're going to take a quick look at multi-server configuration. This is very similar to what we were doing as a single server configuration. The only difference is that now in the options side, we're going to say distributed. Same steps as before, but now when we're going to put a machine name, now you have to select and change specifically the host name of where that services are going to be uh, they're going to be installed at. In this instance, just for the purposes to give it different names, one machine is Siemens DC, another machine name is replace me underscore Siemens DC, and another one I just put Siemens Vis, Siemens DC Vis. As you can see, it's three different servers, quote unquote. And now when we go to the deployment part, after we do the component configuration, that does not change at all. But once we go to create the scripts, notice how now in the deployment scripts, it still tells us that it's going to be stored in one location, but now it's going to tell us this zip file needs to go to the target machine, which is called replace me underscore Siemens DC. The next one is going to go Siemens DC Vis, and the next one is going to go to Siemens DC. Again, very specifically where you need to take that. And it also tells you what components are going to be installed in each server. So this is very different as using TEM, because with TEM you have to know what to install first, when to go to the next servers to install the next components, and because they communicate to each other. So here again, it tells you the instructions that you need to do on how to install it on each server. Once you do that, here's an example of going into that specific folder, three different zip files that were created by the deployment center, and each one of these will need to be sent to each server that's going to be installed. Again, deployment center and this repository does not have to be on the machines you're going to install Teamcenter. This, you can have a server just for deployment center that hosts all the repository files, all of the scripts. All of this can be in one completely server, completely separate, as long as it has connection to those specific servers and they can do a net use to that repository where the media is stored. It will work. And last that we're going to talk about is the upgrade, mastering upgrades. As you can see in here, one of the examples is TCX. In this example, is showing you what versions is already installed. But if I go and I click on the little pencil and I said available software, now notice how I can select versions that are older than what I already have, right? So on the right hand side, I just selected 6.2, Foundation 14.2, and microservices 6.2, right? Because microservices has to go with Active Workspace version. After I do that, on the bottom, I will select update, select the software. And now notice how my status now has a little timer. That's because it's pending. Again, go through the same steps as we did as when we're going to install it for the first time. We go to options, we go to applications. If you want to add more applications, depending on what you need, you click on the little pencil, but you should be able to add them. Once you're done with all the components, you will not be able to deploy or create any scripts if you have not finished, and that column that says complete says 100%. So again, if it's anything missing, just go down the list, see what's not 100%, and then populate the whatever it's asking for those fields. Again, just go to Deployment Center, generate the scripts, read on the right-hand side where the scripts were saved, and now go ahead and deploy just the same way. There's nothing different. CMD into the folder that you unzipped. So you have admin rights, run deploy.bat, and then you'll be able to just upgrade it using Deployment Center. Any questions?
Yeah, so the first question that we have here, I believe what it is asking is, can Teamcenter RAC and NX versions be deployed using Deployment Center to client machines?
Can you repeat that question again one more time? Sorry.
Can Teamcenter RAC and NX versions be deployed using Deployment Center to client machines?
So good question. I know NX you cannot, Deployment Center will not install NX, and for racks, yes, you can do racks. It's just it will be one Deployment Center, one script that will then you will have to modify it a little bit on each of the client machines because the host names are going to be different. But NX is not installed through Deployment Center. It's only Teamcenter.
Okay. And the next question is, are new Deployment Center versions compatible with older Teamcenter versions?
Yes, that's a good question. So if you did already install an older version of Teamcenter and you want to use Deployment Center to upgrade your Teamcenter, you will have to run the deployment center that comes with the specific version that you want to install, but it will be able to scan in. You will be able to scan in your current installation, whether it's 11, 12, 13, whatever Teamcenter version you have. You can scan it into DC, and it will work that way. You can't install, for example, if you want to install 2312, you cannot use deployment center of Teamcenter 13, or it doesn't work that way. You have to use the latest to install the latest versions, but it will work with what you currently have installed.
Okay. Last question. Can you install Rapid Start Teamcenter with Deployment Center?
Unfortunately, no. Rapid Start, you will have to use the temp, just how it was installed previously, because that option is not in Deployment Center. From what I've seen, I'm not sure if that's going to be an option available in the future. I just know, like, in TEM, it'll give you the option whether you want to do the full Teamcenter version, or if you want to do Rapid Start, you don't have that option in DC.
Oh, we have one more question that just came in. Is TEM, is that Teamcenter, is going to be removed in the near future?
From what I've heard, yes. From what I've heard, Siemens is pushing Deployment Center to be the next installation interface, and the reason is because it's a little bit easier, or a lot easier. The only reason that I have seen that they have not completely stopped them is because you cannot uninstall software from Deployment Center. Now, from what I've heard again, they are pushing deployment center, so I would assume in the future you should be able to uninstall features using deployment center.
Okay, thanks, Jaime. Jaime, that appears to be it.